Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of Just Another Kill Team podcast, connecting kill team communities across the globe. If you're passionate about the tactical skirmish game that brings together strategy, lore, and creativity, you are in the right place. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and stay updated with our latest episodes. If you want to support the show, check out our Patreon. Your support means a lot to us. Follow us by using the social media links in the podcast description for all the latest news, and be sure to leave a review to let us know what you think. Thanks for tuning in. Here's today's episode.
All right. Well, we got a spicy one this week. We got Michael on here from Poland. The talk of the town, Murderwing. They're here. They're overpowered, probably, maybe. I don't know. It's hard to know without the weekly stat show that we do on Mondays and kind of general vibes. But Poland took it a step further, Michael, if you want to talk a little bit about kind of the general decision.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everybody. So there was some controversy, which you might have seen, that Poland has banned Murderwing quite early. Immediately.
On the weekend of release, basically, right?
For tournaments.
For specific tournaments, we have two types of tournaments. It's like the Master Series, which is like 6 tournaments in a year. It has to be 6+ rounds, 2 days. These are like the most important tournaments for a national league. And then there's the rest of the tournaments. We didn't ban the Murderwing there. Where do you want to start? I can talk about this for a long time because, as you know, I was receiving many messages during this weekend, answering many questions. So it's like I can talk about this for hours, probably.
I mean, okay, so what's the number one question that people have been asking you? Because you could address it here as well for everyone that hasn't heard already.
I think the number one, it's hard to say, but my gut feeling tells me that the most popular question was why not Wolf Scouts, why not Canoptech, and why not Deathwatch? And the answer is actually pretty simple. We have a group of tournament organizers that decide stuff for the National League, but we have it since 2 months. Before, there was a different organization that was just basically doing everything, and they kind of fell apart. We created like a new club, and we decided to do this in a more like democratic way, where all the communities get together and discuss. And we basically voted on this. And so, like, I don't know, maybe we would have banned the other teams before the nerf. So I can't say, right? So that's the main reason why we didn't ban the other ones. And that's like, I have to be careful because I sometimes will speak for us as a group, and sometimes I will just speak for myself. So speaking for myself, I wouldn't ban the other teams. They don't meet that. Like, the threshold to banning a team for me is extremely high, and I was always anti-banning anything in any system, almost. But Murderwing crossed that threshold for me. Like this team is, like for me personally, this was like one step too far, you know.
And you're banning Murderwing specifically at your upper echelon, kind of like national level tournaments, not really at like the local club 3-rounding tournaments, right?
Yes, but to be fair, these local tournaments will also we'll see it, and they're already banning it. I did a survey because we run local tournaments as well. So what I did was I ran a survey. I basically exported all the emails from BCP of all the players that we ever had in the tournaments in this season, and I sent them a survey. And right now it looks like most of them want to ban it. I asked multiple questions. Like, one is, would you like the ban? Second is like, does the decision actually affect your attendance? And only 1/4 would say yes. And out of these 1/4, like half of them won't come if it's banned, and the other half won't come if it's not banned. So, you know, it's like,
Yeah, you know, I think that's ultimately
we have some data. Yeah.
The core worry for when you're doing a ban on our new toys in our game, right? Because we only get a couple of teams every couple of months. When you're banning one team, what you're actually saying is like this whole subsection of people who are really hyped for X thing, they don't get to play it for a little bit, or they don't get to play like with their friends. And then, you know, I've been playing this game, you know, for like 4 years, and I mean, GW games in general have this thing where it's like, you're playing the overpowered thing. You like go up to the table and then the person like rolls their eyes like, you're one of those kind of meta chasers. And that vibe never really is that fun, for the person on either end, because one person's kind of like, I got to sit here and suffer the Wolf Scouts matchup, for example, or suffer the Canoptek Scouts matchup. And then the other player's like, well, I just think they look cool. I just want to play with my toys. So like, it sounds like that exact balance is what you're running into. So there's kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't, because it's way worse if you were to like, we'll let Murderwing in, but they can't do these things, because then you're just like, well, no one is getting anything out of that situation, right? Just curious. So you mentioned that it looks like the organizations underneath changed, which is why, Wolf Scouts and some of the Canoptek Circle never got touched as far as like the overall organization for Poland as it stands. What about Wolf Scouts and Canoptek Circle at the height of their power before they got nerfed would warrant not getting banned in comparison to Murderwing? Because it feels like these three teams have all been judged as like very powerful collectively. I don't know if anyone else really wanted to walk forwards to a ban, but we've seen Canoptek Circle come out in October. We saw Wolf Scouts come out, in January, and then we have this new team right now. What about Murderwing specifically felt like this is a huge departure from all the other stuff that's come out before it? So much so that, the ban discussion felt like a valid conversation to have.
So for me, the difference is like, so I hated Canoptek Circle on release. I still hate it, to be honest, but I hated it like, I hated it absolutely. Like whenever I got matched up into it, I was like, God damn it. But they had their counters. You could play Falgor into them. You could try Mandrakes. Like over time, it came out that like some teams actually have good play into them. Same with Deathwatch.
Like melee-centric teams for Deathwatch, you got
yes.
the 5 guys, so as broken as you can be, you still have some holes in your game plan because you can't be everywhere at once.
Yes, and Nemesis Claw is like a very popular team and has a very good matchup into Deathwatch, right? They nerfed the Nemesis Claw side of it, but it's still good, right? The problem for me is the way I look at Murderwing is like on Volkus, I don't see counterplay. I honestly just don't see counterplay. Like when I read the rules and I saw, so I played Vespid before, and I played
the Kane of asymmetry, right? Blades of Kane, all Howling Banshees kind of do the same thing where you're guaranteed an asymmetric interaction, or Void Dancers before them. That there's been a lot of teams that can guarantee some level of asymmetry, especially when Vantages are involved. But Murderwing definitely take it to like a whole new level because you have 6 Marines, all of them have effective fly.
And you get the last activation always. That's the crucial part, because if they didn't have this, that's a different story. But since they have the last activation always, and they get to set up in such a way, like I looked at the Volkus maps. So we have like 6 Volkus maps right now, which is 12 deployment zones. 9 of them are immediately, I see how I set up. Like I just see how I set up in heavy cover, and I just stand there. And from there I can threaten either enemies' objective or the main center objective. And since I have the last activation, I can just stand there forever, right? So I just see this pattern. Like I played Warp Coven, where you have one guy that flies. So and it was a great Marine to fight, but it's nowhere near Chaos Lord, and it could only charge, with 6 inches, right? So to me, this like this is a team for me, basically. I love this kind of play style where you set up where they can't touch you, you can touch them, you just wait patiently, you play some bullshit archetype like Recon, right? And you just you just don't have to interact with them, you just set up in a way where they get frustrated. But so I love this stuff. But here I just saw it like you can abuse this so extremely hard that I don't even want to do this to people. And basically this is the difference for me. Like I know that on Tomorrow it's a different story because you can set it up as hardcore, but on the 9 out of 12 deployments in Volkus right now, I think they are like, I don't think some teams can touch you at all. You just have to not give them interaction with you can put six of them on one Vantage. The rest can just stay in deployment or something. Like you have such threat range that you're fine. Yeah, so that's why I think that's different
So at
people
its
have
core,
different
to kind of like
opinions. Yeah.
break it down, it's when you're using the vantage points, you're expecting that if you want to play very, very caged or just very hyper carefully, you can have all 6 Marines if you wanted to on one vantage point, which means that no one's ever going to get to shoot you because there's nowhere for them to charge you. And then you asymmetrically go off in your 8-inch adventure to go slap someone, and you can always do it less. So you can spend a whole turning point doing, I think they have seek and destroy and infiltration, or are they infiltration and
Recon, yeah.
okay, so
Recon
then
is
you
the
can,
problem.
and then you can play like mark enemy movements, sit on the thing, and then if you're passing,
No,
you're going to passively score points.
you just know. You just play the one where you pick up objectives, the
Retrieval.
retrieval. Yes, because
So at its
you
core,
guarantee
you're
your
learning about
own.
this just like very uninteractive game that,
Yes,
from a competitive player's mindset, you're guaranteed to be able to do if you want to.
yes. On these 9 deployment maps, I'm like almost nobody can touch it. There's almost no stick in the game. They're like, I don't know, the new sisters have it, but it's not strong. And even if you have only 2 actions, if they roll the stun, Case Lord is still gonna do what he needs to do with 2 actions. So I just this is not fun for your opponent at all. Like even with like Warp Coven, you could set up these situations where you go in, you do something, you go back, or just even having fly.
And to be
Means
fair,
that
for a lot of these fully asymmetric things, Warp Coven is a perfect one because Warp Coven had, you're going to fly out 6 inches, bop someone on the head with a melee attack, and then rewind back into cover. That basically got, stripped down to exactly 6 inches through a whole bunch of changes over time. Mandrakes, on this most recent data slate, they got their 9-inch charge that goes through terrain pushed back to 7. So it's just kind of like normalization stuff. So would it be as simple as like GW saying, when you do a charge on Murderwing, we go back to 6 inches instead of 8? Would that be enough to trim the asymmetry? Or is the sense in Poland with the kind of like Polish tournament organizers community at this upper level of tournament play, where you're expecting people to try to do these very safe, careful lines, that it's the going last that's breaking it? Because it sounds like those two are like these 2 massive parts of the game plan. And I kind of think when I'm imagining like how good is Murderwing really, that the going last part of the team is powerful, but there are other versions of it kind of floating around. Like Nemesis Claw have a fakey version of it that has been going around when they play against other Marines. When I think about the Rekka crew versus other Marines matchup, the Squigs kind of offer that chance of I'm always going to go last in these matchups. And is it really that Murderwing breaks that parity against teams that have never had that parity broken, or is it that they can always go first and touch you first because of the extra range, or is it just like the synthesis of these 2 issues that's just like too much?
the thing is that they guarantee it into every matchup. Like usually, okay, you have Nemesis Claw. It's great into other elites. Like it's the counter to elites, right? But this team, like they have to spend the prescience point, and there's like D3, like you maybe get only 1 point, and then you can generate the CP. Like there's some trade-offs and stuff. Here, for 1 CP, you guarantee it in every single matchup. You guarantee it into like hordes, and hordes have one way of beating elites. They activate after you, and they just shoot you multiple times or something like that. You stop playing, and then they get to keep playing, right? Now they can do that, and you have also so many effects to stay in combat, so that like they can fall back or they lose APL and stuff like that. So basically, like Kill Team is a game where it's very good to be able to activate last, and this is how it's kind of balanced elites into hordes. Like the amount of activation always matters. Like being able to stall an activation, like I don't know, Hand of the Archon can pass for SCP and stuff like that, or Phobos could do that as well. Like these were always strong abilities just to move the activation count by 1, right? Like in some, for example, when you took Warp Coven, you always thought like, how many goats do I need to take to have more activations? And here you just spend a CP, and that's it. You just get it on a team that flies. So to me, that's one thing. Like the first thing is like absolutely broken is this go last thing. And for the type of player that I am, this is just unimaginably good. But the other thing that I think is really extremely toxic is the fact that you can use the fallback ploy, so the long forgotten honor. So basically, when they hit you, on retaliate, right? So they attack you, they get to do some damage to you, and then instead of hitting them with a crit, you get to fall back. This means you are always safe in combat with some of your operatives. Like your case lord is in combat, so what are they gonna do? They can't do anything. They will charge you. Okay, you have lethal 5 rending ceaseless. You will get 2 crits. So they can't parry both of them. So they will hit you once. You will reduce the damage, and then you will fall back for a CP. And guess whose turn is next, right? So it's like I don't see how like melee teams even interact with this. And like it is, we already know that there are problems like this. Like Wolf Scouts needed to take a nerf to their -1 attack because they were just very good into melee teams. Like Angels of
Wolf
Death.
Scouts, before the change, they got to have everything for free baked into their one ploy. They would fight you in fighting, and they would retaliate better on retaliation. And it just meant that if your primary way of playing the game was melee, you just didn't play the game. You just sat there. And then I think, we had Alexa on here. His strategy was, I'm going to send 3 goats to hug a Marine, and then I will hit you with 2s with 3 attacks, and I will slowly whittle away the Marines. And that was like the game plan in that situation, which, fair enough. It is a game plan against the team, but it's not particularly the most obvious game plan, nor is it particularly fun to play, right? I think that's kind of part of the thing that I'm identifying is you guys see like, well, we could let Murderwing play for the next 3 months to kind of get the data, but we all know that it's not going to be fun to play against or play as.
Yes, and it's not just me. I talked to every player that I think is
ostensibly for like your Polish community right now, just as a kind of like a stand-in since you guys are making the decision. And it sounds like you had a lot of internal conversation, because I can't imagine that this was made particularly lightly, right?
Yes. Yeah. Oh, yes. As I said, I was always against banning, and I think some people are kind of more flexible on this. Some people would ban the Deathwatch and Canoptech Circle teams before. I wouldn't, but like for me, the standard has to be really high, and for me, Murderwing meets that standard. What I will say, like we also asked abroad, right? Like I know that in UK there's some kind of a conversation about this team. Like basically, I asked every single player that I know that is like players that are better than me, and like I said what I think, and they're like, oh yeah, I think the same. That's what I came up with, and like I don't see a counter to this. Like let's look at this map. Like if we set up like this, what kind of team can approach you? And we just didn't find answers. Like but it's not obvious, because like it's not an auto win team. You really need to like you need to yes, you need to know exactly what the threat range of your opponent is. And you need to know it in advance, so like they can't just threat saturate you, right? Because if they get desperate, they can just run at you, and then you're basically gambling. So you don't want that. You want to know it so well. Like sometimes you might just put 4 guys on advantage, and the rest stand in deployment, and that's fine. Just don't give them any points. Don't give them any seek and destroy points, any infiltration points, any. Basically, they only score if they have recon, right? That's your goal, but you do it better.
Kind of sounds like the game plan I have to do when I play stealth suits, where it's like my goal is you get nothing, because if I give you anything, I instantly lose the game. But Murderwing have the option, I guess. They are a Marine chassis who can do melee and shooting. Yep. So on the off chance, you still get to go slap someone in the face, right?
I don't think that's the intended way they were supposed to play, but I think that's how we will play them.
So. There's plenty of teams that have like the same toolkit. So like Blades of Cain, for example, can just like only dangle a Banshee up in the same exact position where no one can get to them, and they'll jump down and they'll chop you up. But the problem and the difference here is that the Chaos Lord hits a lot harder than a Banshee. Because like against a bunch of elites, they can guarantee that they'll go last. They'll jump down and hit you with a bunch of damage.
The old, basically like old elves, right? The old void dancers used to just have full on free fly everywhere, so they always had an 8-inch asymmetric charge range. And then in this edition, it went to like a 9-inch asymmetric, but they got to do a 2-inch climb, so you could basically do similar things with elves the whole time. And ostensibly, the elves had more operatives than Marines, so they almost always got to do it against Marines. But then against the Horde teams, elves kind of tended to fall apart a little bit depending on how good your opponent is. Your core argument, and I for the most part am warm to the idea that Murderwing break this to a pretty high degree, is that Murderwing are now doing this in matchups where they never had to like teams never had to manage this. So my headspace is for those players who are thinking that way. Is it a fun game to have to learn how to get out activated by the Marines? Or is it better to just not have to learn that? I guess is kind of that's always the two pain points, right? There's, will players learn to adapt to this new playstyle, or will there be, or is there no counterplay? I think, when the first Worlds for this edition happened, everyone was trying to figure out, is there a way to beat Warp Coven and Legionary with the current rule set? And everyone landed on like Inquisition agents could do it. And then it turned out at Worlds, it was like, oh, actually underneath that layer of gameplay was just another Warp Coven.
Yes. Yeah, Warp Coven was awesome.
So I'm kind of curious is, Jason has been playing Murderwing a little bit, internally. We had the video go out on YouTube, and I'm curious if Jason, you've heard all these arguments now for the Murderwings who play this really cagey style, who set up the obstacle course, who are only looking for asymmetric interaction. Do you get the sense that there is another layer of gameplay underneath that the Horde teams, for example, the 10 wide teams, Casterkin or Felgor Ravagers or some of these other teams, do they have a layer of gameplay that they can do to fight against a Murderwing player who's just giving nothing and not letting you charge onto advantage by body blocking? Or is it just another Murderwing underneath with malignant narcissism waiting to go and get you?
No, I mean, there's been a bunch of different things that have been popping up, and I actually made a couple of notes for some of the just universal things that are helpful for playing against Murderwing. So running through a couple of the core concepts, the first one is if you are playing against Murderwing and they are for sure going to hit you first, why would you ever stage for your own safety? So if instead you just stage somewhere that you can hit the people that they leave in their deployment zone, or this is a little bit I've seen some people say that you can put ladders on the midline and some people say that you can't, but we generally play that you can put ladders on the midline. So if I put a ladder on the midline first, it's going to mess up your obstacle course, and now I can climb up and get on some of your vantages. And then that invalidates a bunch of those 9 out of 12 deployments that you were talking about that are good. But if you don't know what you're about to get into, it is an absolute nightmare. But if you do, you can start to dissect it and look for weaknesses. So ladders on the midline, complete disregard for your safety. And it becomes not just a gamble if you know how to hunt vulnerable operatives. And that's the entire outlook of how I've been playing Kill Team for the last 5 years. So I know that you can be insanely aggressive and it's not just a gamble, and that is Murderwing's worst nightmare. And then also, if retrieval is the thing that they're trying to do, there's plenty of people that have mine layers. If you just you can set up a mine on an objective where the only place that they can land is on the mine, and then that's really going to mess them up. If you've got if you do throw a bunch of stuns and you have stuff that can nerf people, so if a Chaos Lord jumps into Blades of Cain and then all of a sudden they use Contempt and all of your rerolls go away and you've got a bad roll and they parry first, that's a bad day for the Chaos Lord. It's just you got to take a second look through whatever team you're playing and see what kind of tech you have against them. And some of the weaknesses that you want to exploit is that Murderwing cannot ignore stun. So the Depredator, if he only does his little Beyblade thing once, he kind of sucks, because after that he retaliates hitting on 4s. He's got no rerolls, he's got no buffs, he's got nothing. It's just especially Mandrakes, for example, if you hit him with the Paradolic Projection, which is the Dirge Maw's ability to make him move 2 inches slower and hit worse by 1, now his threat range is useless, and he can, he's hitting on 5s, so if you just have a regular random Mandrake go fight him, he's hitting on 5s, he'll get 0 or 1 hit, or if he gets 2 hits, you parry 1 and then just slice him to pieces. They can't ignore injury, so if you injure people, they're having a rough time. So if you get a chance to cruise missile them anywhere, they're just going to be annihilated. They don't have any super conceal anywhere, so anyone that has Seek, and there's quite a few, I feel it's got to be at least half the teams have something that is Seek. Reread your team and see if you've got that somewhere. And their shooting is also weak and limited, so while you're just ignoring your own safety while you stage, you might as well have all engage orders, because the amount of pressure that you put on people if you're Death Watch on all engage, you're entering counteract territory. If you've got someone on guard as well, it's gonna mess them up pretty severely. And one of the other examples,
it sounds like at its core, a lot of the conversation is around Murderwing on Volkus specifically, right? Did you, Mihail, did you ever get the sense that internally in Poland, people cared how Murderwing played on Tomb World in comparison?
So my belief is that on Tomb World, they're still strong enough because they're elites, they can guard, and they get the last activation. You can still... So the point is, can I address the counterpoints with my counterpoints?
I'm curious to hear, Jason's presenting some of these things that he thinks are like the internal tools that everyone might have against Murderwing being strong. So obviously, I'm sure you guys have talked about, I'm sure there were some people internally who were probably against the ban, so maybe they had similar points. So just kind of hear the thoughts.
Funnily, we didn't get competitive players that were against the ban. Really competitive players. I haven't heard about the most people that were unhappy with it were people who are either more casual or don't even attend our tournaments. Actually, most of the people that were unhappy don't even come to tournaments, which was kind of funny because I have the data. I run the national league, right? So I can just look up who even goes there. But the thing is, I don't see these counters working. This is why I think it's so broken. So if you put a ladder on the front line, so the way I understand it is if you have the ruin, then you can, because it's actually fully straight up. So the ladder still stays on your half. But I know it's kind of muddy. But if it's the Volkus stronghold, then your ladder would actually be kind of tipped over to my territory if you put it in the middle. Because you can't really put it completely upwards 90 degrees, you know what I mean? But even if you can, you're not gonna get to that vantage before me. How would you?
Yeah, so you don't need to get to the vantage before them. You just make it a invalid place to stage to go last. Because if I go there and then you stage someone and it's the only one that's in range, let's say it's turning point especially it's late game, you're staging for retrieval on the 4th turning point, and if I just let you have it, you'll jump down into the last activation and retrieve. But if at the end of turning point 3 I've staged someone that threatens that position, you can't wait to go last because there's someone that's going to pounce on you if you wait. And pretty much just copy paste that to every situation. And if you put enough pressure on people with ladders, with Seek Light, with models that climb, especially if you have a redundant version of that. So I feel going all Banshees would be pretty good, because if I just put a bunch of Banshees within charge range of the safe staging, you absolutely cannot go last. And you only need to threaten the stuff that is staged, because there's usually only 1 or 2 spots that's actually good to be for going last, and then the rest of it is vulnerable for one reason or another.
So my point is that the ladder won't help you if I body block you, because I will just put 2 guys there, and there's no way you're gonna charge me. This is because most of the time you just get one. So most of the time you will. I'm assuming people have Seek Light, so I'm just looking at heavy, right? So you will probably put 3 guys there, and you're just gonna stand there. So I mean, Banshee is a good one because it flies as well, right? So it kind of breaks this. But not many teams can actually get on that vantage once you block the ladder. And to do that, you have to do it in 2 stages. You have to move into a very unsafe spot, right? And then you can get me. But so how many operatives do you actually have that can kill a Marine on your activation? And so probably not that many. And if you go into these not safe spots at the end of turning point 2, then my guy can get a double kill at the end of turning point 2. And if I get the initiative, I just keep killing. So I don't see this working out. I'm looking at the maps right now, and except for maybe elves that fly, I feel like I can stand on these advantages.
So I haven't tried it from the Kasserkin perspective, but I feel like if I was playing Kasserkin, I would take stun grenade equipment and at least 2 troopers. And if people cluster up on that one spot to body block, then you just throw 3 stun grenades a turn. and at that point, their double kills are off the table. And then also,
Yes,
there's
but
usually
to
only one that's actually within range to get anywhere. So if you body block, there's one guy that can make it to the mid objective, and there's a landmine there. And then the other two have to reposition and dash to get there, and then they can't kill someone and also retrieve the point. And also, if I'm taking envoy, you can't go last for retrieval and to deny my envoy, and therefore you have to choose one or the other, and it kind of just makes the tac ops level out. And if you're just like drowning in people that are threatening you with everything and they plant mines on the objectives you want to go, like all of a sudden Murderwing can't do anything that they want to do, but you have to know exactly what they're going to do ahead of time. Otherwise, it's not going to work.
Okay, so one by one, like the mine is smaller than the objective marker, and I fly. So it's usually that I can find a spot to touch the objective without triggering the mine. Like the other operatives can do it, but
only 6
Murderwing...
inches are fly. So if you count on that, and the rest of it is a dash between your base there, the terrain that you have there, and the mine, it is definitely just as possible to make it impossible, even for a flying operative to get there, as it is for flying to set up non-reciprocal.
It does require, I mean, notably for all of this stuff, it does require you to be thinking about this way before you ever hit the table, right? Like,
yeah, definitely.
If you're going to play the game against a Murderwing player and you've never thought about it, they are just,
they're going to
even
walk
in a
all
casual
over you.
game,
It's a nightmare.
You just walk all over you, which I think is a fair comment to have, which is why I think I was trying to get a sense for like, who actually cares about this stuff? Is it like the more casual players who are sad they don't get to play, or the really competitive players who are like, this just seems really not fun to play against? So it sounds like to me that the Polish community that you're kind of representing here, you guys are like, it's just not going to be fun for anyone, so we're just going to not deal with this right now at the moment, right?
Yeah.
Even if there are some tools that can help manage the matchup a little bit, it doesn't make it fun. Like that matchup that we're talking about, where you're thinking about, I have 3 stun grenades, I have the ladder against the thing, I know where their Murdering players are going to set up the roost, and I'm going to throw 3 stuns at there while they're waiting for this last activation. That's still not like a very fun game to play.
But the range of stun grenade is 6, and you have to throw it at an angle, so you have to be actually closer than 6 vertically. Yeah. So if you move up 6, I have guys that you can't retreat from. Like I have chain snare, I have stuff. I just get you in combat.
That is definitely true. But if they're all stunned and you're waiting only for the last activation, and then like the power sword leader comes in and like kills someone because he's got combat support, Aquilons are actually better than at that, because I played a game against Aquilons and I felt like I was doing a really good job of, like, my opponent was just like bum rushing me, and I was like, okay, well, I will kill this guy and then cut that guy down to 1 HP. And then it was like, okay, now they mark me with eye above on that guy, and then come in and like, it's the Depredator, for example, and I get like 2 hits, and then the leader charges in with the power sword and double parries both of my hits away, and then does 14 damage to me with the power sword. The Depredator just died without even swinging back against like the Aquilon leader. And like, if you're looking for that kind of tech, a lot of teams have that kind of stuff, and it's like, and this was like against a newer player, and I was like, all you got to do is just like, don't be afraid. I think if you're super aggressive and super bold, it's going to pan out. And like, it worked out amazingly.
I think we're going to have to see, because my opinion is completely different. So we're just going to have to see. I mean,
I mean, that'll be the funny thing, or the interesting thing for all of us collectively, hearing these arguments and hearing, how Jason thinks that there's tech, and how, Poland essentially thinks that the tech will be there, but then underneath that tech will just be another malignant narcissist Murderwing player sitting there waiting to get you, just like at Worlds, 2 years ago. I think it'll be an interesting thing to watch, and we will see it in the stats play out, right? Like, for as much as there is theoretical counterplay to the Wolf Scouts and the Canoptech Circle players, it turned out that Wolf Scouts were basically averaging, nigh a 70% win rate broadly for the months that they were allowed to not get tapped. And then now, they've been hit. I think the last time we saw on our Monday stat show, me and Jason saw, they were like a 60% win rate. So like, yeah, they got hit, but it looks like they still remain a strong team. So it might be that, Murderwing come out and then they start like Canoptech Circle, a 50% win rate that spikes to 70% on the many tournaments where Murderwing will definitely be allowed across the world, right? Because this is not like a broad thing that's happening. This is like, oh, we'll get to see. Like maybe the Polish tournaments are going to look really fun in comparison in a month and a half when we get the first tranche of American or European big tournaments where Murderwing are at the top couple slots in the tournament.
I also wouldn't watch win rate as much as placing rate in this case, because I think like if you play this, like there will be a temptation to just I fly, I kill guys, I'll just go ahead and try, and that will work out. They are very strong, and you can just definitely play them aggressively. But to me, this is gambling. Like when you play aggressively, you always give them opportunities, right? And that's what I always try to avoid. And so. I think like probably the optimal play style is to try to be more careful. But if we are correct, then basically regardless of the win rate, there will be a very high placing rate. So that's what I would expect.
And that's what I was saying. Like even though we look at these week to week stats, Wolf Scouts, Canoptech Circle all had pretty high conversion rates. Because on the weekends where they did well, they would spike really hard. But it just turns out that Wolf Scouts also just had a floor of a 70% because you're like, I guess I turn on the Storm, I have counterattack, and my leader will kill 4 guys guaranteed. What's the math going to look like? So it turned out that they needed a nerf. They got a nerf pretty quick. And GW, as far as timelines go, they turn around and slap them relatively quickly, all things considered. And now Wolf Scouts, we'll see if they maintain the 60%. It turns out that I think people just like playing Space Marines, so and Wolf Scouts still are pretty strong.
They're very strong, I agree. I'm painting them and I want to play them, but I don't want to play like the most broken team right now, and so I'm waiting for another nerf. I really wish they, I don't know, reduce the size of the Storm or something like that at least.
Yeah, it's like the double healing, the rerolling armor save that stacks with the reduced piercing is really strong. Yes. Completely immune to being injured and stun is really strong, and a lot of the other stuff is like cool but strong. It's like strong in a way that they need. But yeah, that team is still pretty insane. I also do want to
change order.
Yeah, change order.
Well,
the permanently silent sniper. A lot of people say they don't like that guy, but I'm like, that guy is the most annoying. Like, even if he's not optimal, he's the most annoying.
Oh yeah, he's great.
That dude was absolutely cooking me as Murderwing too, because I was like, you know what? I'll tank one shot. What, you'll do like 3 damage? I don't care. And then it was just like 10 damage, and I was like, I'm ruined.
I mean, getting also, guard on silent on Volkus is bonkers.
On the 2-star advantage, you're like, well, what am I supposed to do against this?
I do want to say my favorite tech that I've seen against Murderwing is, of course, Wolf Scouts, because the Chaos Lord, if you jump down with the Chaos Lord and try to fight a Wolf Scout, if you go after a single target, you're going to kill it and it's just fine. But what you want to do is use that giant 40 mil base to land on 2 different Wolf Scouts so that you can get a double kill, because he's 100% capable of that. But the trouble is, you jump down and you kill one, and they don't ever parry back. They just hit you a couple times. And then the other one that you want to fight next counterattacks you and just kills you. And then just the existence of counterattack makes... Because we rolled it out like 4 times in a row, because I played it against Pierce, and then he did that, and I was like, oh, that's a really good play. And then I just, like, we rolled it out a couple times afterwards to be like, I'm pretty sure that's average. And, just like a few more times. We didn't put it in a calculator or anything, but it looks like that's how it's going to work out. So Wolf Scouts are never going to let the Chaos Lord get a double kill.
What if Chaos Lord just reduces the damage? Does it still work? Because like he could do this in both combats, right? Just to reduce the damage. I think he can.
That is
still
true.
One-shot the 13
but it's not necessarily enough to help with all the lethal 5 or lethal 4 if the leader's in there. And also, if you fail the roll,
that's a different story.
If you fail the roll, you're gonna die. It gets so much uglier.
But this is like the core problem in Warhammer 40k lore, where the Inquisitors look at the Tyranid Hive fleet coming into the system. They're like, you know what? We'll send the orcs against them. That'll be fine. We're gonna leave the Wolf Scouts to go manage the Murderwing. Yeah. And then we come out after 3 months. Everyone is horribly disfigured as the Murderwing have slowly eaten all the Wolf Scouts players. And then GW nerfs, Murderwing anyways. We're like, oh, we're back to square one. We got to go find some other monster to go interact with.
Yeah, I do feel like Angels of Death has a strong game into them because the sniper with Seek Light denies so much area, and like when you funnel them into a little area, even if you stack up to body block, like I said earlier, there's only one guy that can like threaten the thing, and if there's a captain there that is like a resolute captain, and he just like survives something that you don't want him to, it kind of just like ruins your opportunity to score the points you need that turn, especially if you put it all in one gamble that's last activation, and then it's just stopped by the captain. Things can go south pretty fast.
But on Volkus, if you play into Angels of Death, I don't see how you have issues, because what are they gonna play? Seek and Destroy or Plant Banner? Yeah, but like you have a guy that moves 12 and reduces the APL twice. It's really hard to plant a banner when this guy always
put two guys to stand on the banner, and then you just throw a bunch of stun grenades at the Depredator, and you completely do not fear or respect them at all. And you just like push as much, like I'll push the Angels of Death so hard that by turn 2 I will be killing anyone that's in your drop zone. Because I'm just like, everyone goes unengaged because I'm not scared of your shooting. Everyone just move dash. You don't stand in cover at all when you deploy, so that you have just as much straight. You don't take cover along the way, and you just like barrel down the field. And if they shoot a bolt pistol at you, you shoot it with a bolt rifle.
Who's confused for these stories, especially Male here, who's hearing the insane Jason strats probably for the first time. That as crazy as Jason sounds, he does have some backstory at going to large tournaments and out aggroing people.
It's like a 7-2 kind of energy. It's not like world champs winning, but it's like 7-2 kind of vibes.
I have a friend that plays just like you, and he played elites, and he played like Zinj guys in the previous edition, the Chaos Space Marines, and he just ran at people, and it worked 75% of the time. He rarely won tournaments, but he was very often 3-1 because people never expected this. Even if they knew him, they knew he was aggressive. They never expected him to be that
could possibly do it again this time, and then he would be 6 guys at the midline ready to go.
Yeah.
I always made a joke that I felt like when I was playing against him, I was like playing tower defense. It's just these creeps that just run at me just to kill me as fast as they can, and they just try to hold on to some vantage here or there, and like maybe trying to shoot him and maybe somehow surviving it. It definitely catches people off guard. That's for sure. That's for sure is gonna happen.
Yeah, and my buddy that does that even more aggressively than me is like a big part of what tainted my Murderwing vision, because like he was doing that with mandrakes, and I was like, oh man, if you just like cruise missile anyone that's on the ground, then my like late game pieces that I was saving for like the turn 4 retrieval are just, they don't make it to turn 4, and things get spicy when you then have to like play fair in the middle of, or like late game.
Yeah, I mean, from my experience with playing against such a playstyle, I think it's counterable, but then you have to play on, like, if you make a mistake, you will lose. Basically, the other, like, you put pressure on the other person when you play this aggressively, so that, like, their plan has to be perfect, and they have to measure all the distances, and, like, if they fail, then, like, I don't know, they give you one charge or something like that, then it's probably a big problem. Yeah,
definitely got to play it well, but I think that goes for both sides, because like the other thing on my path to try to find the biggest abuse with the Murderwing, if you're too cagey, you're not close enough to pull off a retrieval. Like if you have to reposition and dash, and there's already someone standing on there, you can't kill them and retrieve. So you need to be close enough to charge, kill, retrieve, or move, shoot, retrieve. And if you're staging that close, there's like room for the opponent to kill those operatives. You don't go after the one that is untouchable. You go after whoever's on the ground. And like I was saying earlier, if there's no way that I'm going to hit you first, I'm going to stage to the point where it is invalid for you to go last. And every single team has the capability to do that. So it is kind of a universal answer. And like if you put down mines, ladders, stuff like that, I'm going to have someone in the back line run onto that mine and then tiptoe around and go back to my home base and score whatever's over there. And then that just opens the gate for everyone to rush in and go crazy. But pressure is the one thing that has worked for me. And like when I'm going into a game with a friend, I'll be like, this is what I think the counter is. You can tell me if you think I'm crazy, but like a lot of my friends are like, oh yeah, we play aggressively, and I see that is a valid counter. And then they'll try it, And we've had a couple games where it's like, okay, stop if we're about to make a terrible play, because we actually want to find out what the strongest abuse is and what the counter is. So we're kind of trying to like work together to coach each other to find the best opportunities. And the Murderwing does have to get close enough, like I said, and those are the pieces that you kill.
Yeah, but remember that you, as a Murderwing player, if you play security and I can deny that, or you play Seek and Destroy and I can deny that, I just need to retrieve only my points to get the differential, right? So I don't have to go and get 6 from Taco. My point is to play it on Knife's Edge when I win by 2, by not giving you interaction. And I interact with crit. Like some teams can put a mine on the middle objective, kind of, but not all teams, right? Like it's like, we need to see, because every time for each of my arguments, you have a counter argument, and then I have another counter argument, and we could go like this forever.
All these different kind of like tactical and strategic level decision making. Now that you guys have instituted, we're not going to play these at the super competitive tournaments, and maybe filtering down from that, some of the more casual Polish tournaments are going to take their cues from you guys and also not play them. Are you guys worried that kind of like this nationwide ban is going to come back and bite you guys when you have to play with the team, at the WTC or something else? Or are you guys still playing on the side where people are like, still playing games with them against, Canoptic Circle, Wolf Scouts, some of these other matchups, just so people have practice on them?
I'm not worried at all. So first of all, most players in Poland don't go abroad to play. We have a lot of tournaments in Poland, and so like this would affect less than 1% of the player base. And I'm among that 1% of the player base, and I also don't care, because like WTC is in 6 months. Kill Team meta will change so much by then, and maybe the decision about the ban would be different before the WTC. Maybe then the community feels different as well, right? Because at the end, it's about community. It's like all the competitive players say, "Yeah, we don't want to ban this," then not ban this.
Yeah, it could be, in a couple, after like a month and a half, the meta game elsewhere settles out and people see like, oh, they're like a 55% win rate, like whatever. You guys can always just go back and be like, all right, guys, have fun. Like, good luck.
Yeah. And in the end, it's like, I think getting reps into this team right now isn't going to be very profitable, because once I'm pretty sure they're going to change Narcissism somehow, and then it's going to be a totally different team. So like it's not like practice right now gives us that much. And if we need to, we will just practice with each other. Before WTC, we test a lot just between us. And then there are no bans there. Like we just test what we need to test.
You got to play what you got to play when you're going to these big national tournaments, right?
Yeah, suddenly somebody gets a role. You need to learn Goremongers and teach us how to play into it. And that guy just learns Goremongers and then teaches us. And that works pretty well. So yeah, I'm not worried about that.
That kind of ties into one of my other questions. So the biggest things to tone down to bring the team in line from everything that you've seen sounds like it would be malicious narcissism and the range on the boost charge would be the two things. Or is there anything else, or are those not the things that are like the most abusive?
To me, I'm speaking as myself now. To me, it's narcissism and long forgotten honor working only when you're fighting, not when you're retaliating. And I would touch these two things, and then I would just let them play and see, because I still think they would be strong, but then it's difficult. It's very difficult for me to like assess this team. Like the only reason why it's easy for me to assess, at least I think it's easy for me to assess it, is because I see this non-interactive play style, and then like you don't really have to play it out that much to see it. But once they're a regular team that has to roll dice, like we need to check the breakpoints and stuff, like then we would have to see. But I'm on the conservative side here. I know people that think that both of these things should be nerfed, and then they should lose an operative, and then something else. So some people go, in my opinion,
we should remove all of the elites from the game entirely. We'll go back to the Horde world, where it's just Brood Brothers, Deathcore, and Pathfinder.
By the way, I hate this world.
If we want to obliterate Astartes, just give Grenade Seek again. Anyways,
for all of the discussion internally for all the new Kill Team players, back in the olden days when 21 came out, all grenades used to have Seek permanently. So it was just a whole different ball game back then.
yeah, so that was like Horde teams would wait to go last, and then they would run up and throw Seek grenades at you, and then like Vet Guard could also plant a bomb that would blow up through the entire building. You don't need to see anyone, and it was like a piercing 2 like plasma thing. All plasma was piercing 2. It was crazy times. But we're past all that. Okay, so malicious narcissism. I've heard a couple of ideas that I think are pretty interesting on how it could be tweaked to be more fun for everyone. One of them I think is the most obvious, that I've seen talked about the most, is just make it cost an extra command point every time you use it. We've seen that plenty of times. You still get to use it like at least once, and then it's a huge investment every time you use it after that. I actually like that idea. Do you guys think that sounds interesting, or if there's anything more interesting available instead?
I think it's not enough. I would make it so. I would happily pay 6 CP to use it 3 times, because I wouldn't pay for anything else, because I'm maybe for rerolls, right? But like, I think that when I read it first, I thought it was like you get to be second to last, not last. And I already thought it's kind of strong, but interesting. So I would really, make it so
it's like one step deeper than that. It's whenever you want, and also last. Like you can pick. Like you pick the moment it is the most powerful. Generally, it's going to be last. But if your opponent makes a mistake somewhere on the step ladder up to the last activation, you will just dumpster them. So it's even a little more dangerous than just last. So I kind of understand where you're coming on that framing.
Yeah.
If you suddenly need a counteract, you just go. But like basically being second to last means that hordes have the last activation, which is safe, and this is how it should be. Like it shouldn't be that like the Malta guy that's like from Vanguard or whatever team can just go and try to do something without being punished by a 6 model team. I think this just breaks the game too much.
Yeah. One of the other things that I saw that I really liked, there was a local friend of mine, Jamie, and he was like, what if when you use malicious narcissism on the following initiative, you're not allowed to use initiative cards? That's my favorite.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, the old Kasserkin Steel Initiative was kind of worded that way, where you couldn't always guarantee that you're going to go first the next turn. So that's also an interesting one. Notably, I think on the GW side, I think it probably wouldn't fly, because the initiative cards are baked into the approved ops rather than like the overall thing. So I suspect what they want to do when they write rules is they write the team rules, without looking at the approved ops decks, because if you refer to the approved ops decks and they change out, that would be weird. But it could definitely be written down somewhere that like you can't be the initiative holder at the next turn. That could be an interesting trade-off. And then I think it does kind of remove probably the spiciest version of those go last plays, right?
What if only the Raptor could do it, just a basic Raptor?
Oh my gosh.
Unfortunately, Jason loves the Raptor. So Jason actually would be on the headspace of like, that would break the team.
No, but here's the thing. Raptors are
all the way
cool.
back around.
Raptors are only cool because they're good. They're like the best ones on the team at being aggressive. So if they're good at being aggressive, you don't really care that much about going last. So it probably is fine. But then, like, you can still get a lot of sauce out of it. But it's not the Chaos Lord, because that Chaos Lord going last is insane. And it's not the Meltagun, because the Meltagun going last is insane. Raptors going last, I love that.
Yeah, some way to like bring it down in line, but still have the emotive feeling of they always are going to go last, but it's not going to be the biggest, most important guy sending all of his minions to death before cleaning up.
Or like, but you can only use it on turning point 1 and 2.
But I have to say, like the fluff behind it, like the rules and like how thematic they are, it's incredible. I have to say, like they write these rules so well, like to represent a specific faction or like a mindset. Even it's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, the flavor text for malicious narcissism, it very much reads in line. The Murderwing wait until fear is at its zenith before striking. That is basically the game when the Chaos Lord is sitting on a vantage point, waiting out to the last activation at the end of 2, and your opponent's like, son of a bitch. He's just going to destroy me. And then if you've taken the cards to rig it, you're like, oh, I guess he's going to go twice, and I'm just going to instantly implode. Although, notably, Jason has played the Chaos Lord a couple times where he was just rolling damnation packs as he was going. And Jason has definitely called out, like, oh, every once in a while, the Chaos Lord just falls down, misses the 3-up, misses the second 3-up, and just implodes on the spot.
The only one that you really want to plan for if you're trying to be actually competitive is the first one. And then the second one just becomes enormously more risky. Because it's like the difference between if someone hits you with a power sword, when you use it, you either take 4 or 8 damage. And you really do not want to take 8 damage from that.
Definitely.
Yeah. It's definitely an interesting team. I know that I'm super excited to see how it kind of like falls out into the metagame overall, because as broken as they are, as uninteractive as they might be, they also play, much closer in line with like a generic Space Marine team outside of the one really big go last play, which is, obviously a big change of pace. And I'm very curious to see how everyone takes them, because I suspect like every other single Space Marine team that's ever come out, they are going to be insanely popular as far as metagame goes.
Yeah, and like in terms of all the rest of their abilities, like the boost stuff, I've pretty thoroughly combed looking for abuse in there. And it is very well screened out that you can't really rig up combos and stuff unless like someone else has found it. But it's like most of the boost actions you can't do while you're charging, and you need to spend an APL to do it. And like if you do it from far enough that you were like safely staged in the first place to like catch people off guard, you got to use Wings of Darkness, and then you can't do other violence after that. But like there's still some cool stuff, but to the point where it feels a little more fair. Where like if the Hunt Master uses Wings of Darkness and slices someone, that's pretty cool. But it's like a whole activation to do a little bit of damage. You've got to be really careful about landing somewhere safe. As well as like the Curse Claw. I mean, the Curse Claw has way too valuable of a role to go last and like lower people's APL so that you can use Retrieval on an objective. But if he wasn't tied to having to do that, you can dash and then 9-inch reposition and snatch somebody along the way, and that is a huge amount of area. And like you don't need to charge them, so you can kidnap a stealth suit. I don't know. It's like that's some interesting tech there.
Yeah, it has all of these super cool toys, and the vibes are, as always, from GW immaculate. So whenever that change happens, are you guys... How is Poland feeling about the other half of the box? Obviously, we spent a lot of air talking about the Murderwing, but we've got the Celestian Insidiants right there. And like, to my mind, when I look at their rule set, I'm like, they look like they will be either very good or extremely good once people kind of get a hold of how to set up all those areas. So like, how is Poland feeling about the other half of the box? Obviously, Murderwing, overpowered. Celestian Insidiants, fine?
We didn't talk as much about them because like we don't see them, so they're not immediate.
They're not like breaking a core part of the game that everyone has already learned how to play around. They're, obviously they're doing some other stuff. So
yeah, they are a strong team, and so I played only once into them, and I read their rules a few times, and I think they're definitely strong. They're not going to be that easy to play, I think, because you need to set up your combos well, but I think like in hands of somebody who like loves this team and spends time, they will be very strong. I mean, 9 wounds, 3+ save, reduction of damage in combat. Many teams will find trouble killing them, and you have stun weapons, shock weapons as well. It's like, that's a tough break point. Actually, 9 wounds minus
and
1
they've got
damage.
Like the crazy stat check like Plague Marines have, where they have the aura that makes you hit by 1 worse, and they can give themselves ceaseless. So that just makes a lot of the melee math insanely unfavorable. I agree with you. I think like in 3 months, the popularity is going to just like go way down because they're hard to play. But the people that stick with them and like do all the homework to get all the combos right, I think this team's going to be absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, I definitely, that's kind of like my read on them. I read them and I'm like, well, they have every single rule you could ever want at whenever they really need those specific rules. And also when they charge and fight, they're like, oh, we have 4/4, all these keywords. And also you pretty much always have an extra D3 on the top if you really need to hit someone.
They have a lot of the worst of what Sanctifiers had, which is like you can dash and then charge. So you have just insane charge front range. It's like the same as Mandrakes minus going through walls, but like you don't even need to go through walls for Mandrakes to be insane.
And their balancing point is that they have 9 operatives, like, compared to the ecclesiarchy team before that had 11 dudes, 10 of them with the ability to do the dash charge. This team has 9. I don't really know if that's going to matter all that much, because not like every single operative on the Sanctifiers was a melee threat. Whereas when I look at the Celestian Insidians, they are all ostensibly melee-esque threats, along with having, a bunch of silent weapons floating around.
9 operatives is a weird count. Like, elves get this, but elves are very squishy, and these guys aren't. So it's gonna be interesting for sure. It might be that they're very broken. We'll see. But like this to me, like is difficult to say.
It's like a fair broken, where you can you still get to play a full game as you find out if they are broken or not. Whereas Murderwing just break the action parity so hard that you're gonna be in for a rough time.
Yes, that's what I think.
Yeah, I think the sisters are going to stat check you super hard, but it's not easily, because you have to like do all your homework and get all your inspiration and hand it off all right and get all your auras and measurements and visibility on each other correct. But once you do that, they're going to turn into like one of the craziest stat check teams in the game.
But overall, it sounds like
so their ability to like randomly remove damage from combat, and you never know when it procs. It's just like, every time they roll these 2 dice, I'm like, God damn it.
It's such a fun flavor. Like, as much as I hate it, from like a pure, I like playing spiky games and I like, thinking about the math, it's very flavorful. Like every once in a while, God will just be like, I'm going to take that one. Sorry, guys. Because we played enough. I honestly kind of expect that one, as flavorful as it might be, is probably going to end up being like you get to do it once a game, or like maximum of once a turning point when you're rolling for it. Because like, oh man, playing enough games of Kill Team, everyone, if just a scratch hits, it doesn't really matter what it hits. It's always going to break a breakpoint somewhere, and it's just going to be miserable. Having that float over your head for an entire game against these 9 wound operatives with -1 damage just sounds so unfun on such a deep way.
It's often enough that it's like there isn't really any fights that don't matter. So it just happens twice and you don't decide when it is, and it ruins your whole day. It's kind of like the same. It's like the mirrored opposite of Blades of Cain, where it's like with Contempt, where you don't really control when it's going to happen, but it doesn't really matter, because any fight that just like absolutely train wrecks ruins your whole day. So like Contempt, they just like turn off your rerolls. It's the just a scratch, whatever that equipment is called, 2d6. If one of them is 6, take 0 damage. Crazy.
I think the way to play it is just forget about it, because like
it's going to happen. You just have to let it happen.
Yes.
Yeah, you can't. Like, the thing is, on both sides, I think it's so funny because neither player can ever plan for it. You just know it's going to happen, so you just play through it.
Yeah, which is also kind of how I think about the Chaos Lord. Like once you get your like second damnation point, especially if you like are going for 6, he's just like a raging fire that no one controls.
So we've had a couple Polish players on the podcast from time to time. Obviously, this podcast has been a lot about kind of like the Polish community on the really upper end. But how have things been going overall as far as the scene goes? You mentioned that there was an older group. We've had them on from time to time talking about how they used to grow the Kill Team scene, and now you guys have kind of pushed out to more individual, I assume like city heads or like region heads in Poland, kind of running local scenes and then meeting up, for your big 6 tournament circuit that goes to Worlds and all the other stuff. And now I guess we'll talk a little bit about how excited is Poland that the World Championships of Warhammer this year is in Europe. Is this like a huge like fire in the iron at this point for the whole community? What's going on now that we've had that announcement come out?
Yeah, I mean, the interest in getting a golden ticket has spiked to the roof. Before, it was the case when the ticket was passed down like multiple times, because basically nobody wanted to spend the money and go. And we had actually trouble finding players, at least 2 years ago. Last year we had 2 players, and I requested 2 tickets. We got 2 tickets, and 2 people went. And I don't think we would have found more, to be honest, because it's just a very big cost, time-wise and money-wise. And many people are just turned off by it. But Spain, oh my God! Like suddenly
Barcelona too. It's not even like a random city in Spain to try to keep costs down. They're like, we're going to Barcelona this year.
Yeah, I requested 7 tickets already for 2 leagues, 1 big tournament. Like we're trying to get as many as we can, because I'm pretty sure we will use every single one of them. Yeah, I think it's gonna be great. The thing with our community is like in the previous year, I think we got more competitive players that are looking to play WTC and are really like trying to get better, and we play more TTS and stuff like that. So, but we also have like a strong casual side. So I think next month we have 3 tournaments in Warsaw. This month we had 3 as well, I believe, and so these are both like small tournaments where just 8 people play, or 12 or 16 or whatever it is, and it's just a local gaming group that meets in there. They have their own meta and stuff, but they are also like these 40-player local tournaments from time to time. So I think it keeps growing. There's also many communities which are disconnected from us that are not playing in the national league. Like we have a group in Szczecin, in like Tri-City, in like northern Poland, near the sea, and they just have their own thing. They have their own tournaments, their own leagues. Our intention is to at some point integrate everybody together, because what we want to achieve is that people don't play in silos. We just visit each other and have these big tournaments all around the country. But we will see. Like, it will take time. The group just formed, and we made one of the first decisions was very controversial, as you have seen. So we will be working on including as many players into this TO group as possible. I mean, as many communities as possible, and to basically grow the tournaments as much as we can. We want to have 3 world WTC teams, which are the national teams, not just like groups of friends that randomly went, but like we want the league to find 15 best players and just have 3 teams like this. But we slowly need to grow it. This year we will have 2. Maybe next year we will have 3.
Yeah, I mean, it's a thankless job doing all the kill team organization, and obviously you've been getting, I suppose, some version of internet heat, although hopefully not, for the decision. So I'm glad that you're able to come on and talk a lot about the Murderwing and Poland specifically, because it's always interesting to hear how different scenes are growing over time. I'm curious, what have you been playing in the meantime? Obviously the Murderwing stuff, blah, 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 blah. You played against Celestian Insidian. So what were you playing on? And do you have any like quick tips before we split for the night for anyone who is interested in getting into your team?
Recently, I've been playing Nemesis Claw because I spent half a year painting them. During that time, they received, I think, 3 nerfs, which was fun for me. But yeah, I love this
somehow
game.
Remaining one of the better Astartes teams, regardless.
They're still pretty good. That's true. And playing into Insidians, I actually played Murderwing. And one funny thing I did was I put Chaos Lord on the teleport pad in a way where he could get charged by the best Celestian fighter. And so my friends took the bait, charged me, and I spent a crit to teleport to the other side with the fallback, and there I could get a double kill, right? And so I was like, okay, we roll back the whole thing, right? Yes, so we had to roll back like half the previous turn, because basically it's game breaking, right? Because he wasn't prepared for Chaos Lords to appear on the other side of the board. And it's kind of funny that it works like this. They should make it like counteract, so you
yes,
can
at the moment it is
teleport with it.
That fade into darkness is technically a fallback as long as you end up further away from your opponent. So sitting on a teleport pad, it is still worded in a way where you can do it.
I mean, in this case, it was the Murder Claw. What is the Long Forgotten Honor, right?
Yes. Oh, on Murderwing.
Yeah. Because you couldn't do that with the other thing, because you would get closer to somebody, and so I tried, but I never made it work so that I could teleport and be further from other operatives with Namclaw.
Yeah, because you would need to be like so much further forward at the teleport pad on your opponent's side before you could do it. It is one thing you can do, probably like on the end of turn 3, you can like set up for it for the open of turn 4, but it's still pretty hard. Whereas on the Murderwing right now, you can just do it with your long forgotten honor or whatever. Fun. Always some fun little tech floating around.
This is what I love about this game. There's so many rules and the rule interactions that there's always something to find, some little advantage you can get from, I don't know, creatively using some rule.
Agreed. That is 100% my favorite thing about it too. And always having new puzzles to solve with every release.
Yeah, but to be honest, I'm scared of new releases now. I love new releases, but I'm like, this season was really rough. Like for my morale, at least. The first box was that's rough. Then Wolf Scouts, okay, I love them. Like when they nerf them, I will play them. And now Murderwing. I wonder what's next.
Well, I always get the feel that GW kind of does their balancing and their designs kind of like in year-long tranches, because for most of the last season, like Blades of Cain, Scouts, Mandrakes, it took a long time for some of those teams to be found to be broken. Like, sure, Mandrakes have been about as good as they've been the entire way through, which was very good, but they were hard to play, so it took a long time for that to kind of like crawl its way out of the rule set. Whereas this edition and this year of releases, it's felt like each of these teams is trying to hit the rule set really, really hard to break one part of the pinata. And man, oh man, does it feel like some of those break really hard.
Sweet.
I'm hoping for Grey Knights. We'll see.
Oh man, Grey Knights would be sick. I want Catachans. The way that I would do Catachans, we'll see, is to take an angle from Canoptic Circle, but hear me out, where there's like 20 different options for people that you can take on a 10 model team, and you can take like up to 2 or 4 or something troopers, but your troopers are expendable and they respawn like Canoptic goons do.
Hopefully
not. Have a 10 model team that feels like a horde.
Yeah, no more.
Or specialists
no more
that are just better. Too good to not take. Anyways.
All right. Well, Mihail, if there's nothing else for you to bring up, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on and talking about the, semi-controversial, Polish changes to Murderwing. Whether or not they actually truly end up being particularly controversial, I guess time and stats will tell.
Yeah, we will see. We'll either look like brave people that did the right thing, or we will look like total idiots. One of these things will be true. It will be funny either way. One thing I would like to shout out, in April, we have a Polish National Championship. Everybody's invited. I know it's very far for you guys, but maybe some of the listeners want to take a trip to Warsaw. It's a 2-day tournament. We're going to have some golden tickets, I hope. I don't know yet, but I think GW is generous with those if you make your case. So, yeah.
Do you already have a registration link?
It's gonna be banned. Yes, I'll give you that one.
Yeah, shoot us
later.
that and we'll throw it in the notes.
Mm-hmm. And so Murderwing is gonna be banned there unless there's an emergency patch. So if somebody just wants to play and see how meta looks without them, you can do it.
Cool. Well, thanks for coming on. This was a fun conversation. And
thanks for having me.
Thank you, listeners, for listening to